you're gonna have to excuse me because I prefer not to stand behind the podium. You know, we're a small group and I don't. Yeah, it's a little bit different and I'm more accustomed to just having to talk at people rather than with people. I was in the military, like Kevin, he knows what I'm talking about. You try to get their attention, you try to, get close to them. The real apology is I'm gonna read from my script because I don't want to ramble, okay? And this was the largest script I could find before it went to Braille. So I'm gonna have to, follow it closely. But for those of you that may have not met me or I have not given the courtesy to go and meet you, I'm Jim Matalini. I was Renee's oldest brother. I was born in 49, she was born in 51. We have another sister born in 52, and a brother born in 56. Now, admittedly, I don't know my sister as well as Sean and Stephanie and the very moving comments and tribute they gave to their mother. But I will claim that I know her longer than anybody. So, as others of us here, Renee was born shortly after World War II, and the values instilled in her as a child defined her entire life. While living in a small 1950s 3-bedroom and 1 tiny bathroom house with 6 family members, and I know there's other families that had maybe 9, she became her best person every day, learning to share, compromise, and sometimes simply to tolerate with consideration and respect for others, all underscored by her love for family. It was, this one's supposed to happen.
That's okay.
It was all never about her, about Renee. As a Christian and Catholic, she attended Catholic grade school for 8 years. The Catholic Youth Organization in our parish sponsored an award presented each year to the all-around outstanding male and female graduates for the 8th grade. It was not a popularity contest or one you competed to receive. Leadership of the school and church leaders decided on the recipients. Renee was she was honored with that award in her graduation year in 1965. She was an accomplished person. She was very likable and she did her thing. During her high school years at the Academy of the Holy Names, her enjoyment came most from playing on the basketball team where she was a standout. Those were days when women's basketball did not hold the prominence it does today. I also remember her telling me that a group of girls in the school wanted to establish a select girl group. I don't know what you call it now, Mean Girls, I don't know what it is. and Renee was asked to join. And she told me about it, but she didn't ask for my opinion. And if you really know Renee, you'll understand my inflection in my voice in a response to what she said to me. She said, "I'm not doing that." And I admired her for it. She was her own person. And I never remembered her attempting to set herself aside as special from anybody, except for the basketball team, where one's talent was the only criteria and a player's reward was playing before fellow students, playing for them, and playing for their school. Excuse me here. Now, many of you know Renee and Richard's story began early, and that was alluded to by both Stephanie and Sean. And I'm telling you my perspective on all this, okay, from those years. They attended the same Catholic grade school before Richard's family moved to Florida after his completion of the 7th grade. So they knew each other through grade school. Years later, when Richard was heading to West Point, he stopped to see family in the Washington, D.C. area, asked Renee out, and that began the lasting romance for more than 50 years. Now, what you may not know is that throughout Richard's 4 years at West Point, Renee faithfully made the 5-hour drive each way from our home to events where dates were allowed. And they were only 18 years old. And Renee, I'll get into this, she decided she didn't want to go to college, she got a job, and she ended up, young girl, that drive, my parents wanted her to have a car, she went and she worked hard to buy her own car. So imagine that kind of devotion. 4 years of long drives, perhaps countless letters, and even more, significantly more time apart from each other. And you begin to see the depth of the love for him, for her, and she for him. Now, Kevin back here, he's also a West Point graduate, so he'll understand this. Richard's acceptance into West Point itself was a significant achievement. Only 12% of applicants admitted out of the 12,000 each year that apply. But I think the greater odds of success were Renee's. Meeting a young West Point cadet en route to school for his freshman year, to both 18 years old, remaining faithful to him through 4 years, marrying him, and building a loving, enduring marriage and family with 2 wonderful children and 4 precious granddaughters that lasted nearly a half century. I believe that's quite an achievement by Renee, and by all measures by both of them. Itself perhaps a fairy tale come true. Now, after graduating from high school, Renee decided college was not for her. Yet you may not understand this, but this is how I viewed it as her brother. Yet she spent the next 50 years earning advanced degrees with honors in homemaking, child raising, grandparenting, community service, working in the library, schools, and a church, assisting Richard in the Marty Lyons Foundation, establishing lasting friendships with both family members and others, handling home care and all of its associated requirements for our ailing mother, and as a loving wife and as a military wife, which takes a special woman and includes, as Sean indicated, numerous moves both in the United States and even overseas, which you have no control over. However, she was fortunate that Richard's assignments also took them to live in some special places like Garmisch in Berlin in Germany, at Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania, and in Hawaii for 4 years. Renee embraced, as Sean said, the many moves, turning each posting into a warm and loving home for her family. Now, when Richard retired from the U.S. Army in the 1990s, Renee asked him to remain in the Washington, D.C. area in order for her to provide support for our ailing mother. For years, Renee made the long drive on the infamous Highway of Lost Hours, commonly known as the Capitol Beltway, from Herndon, Virginia to our mother's home near Olney, Maryland. Renee would tell me of 2-hour drives to and from on some days. There she managed our mother's health care appointments, home care staff and payments, other bill payments, ordered her medicine, drove her to appointments, did the shopping, and attended to many other needs. Renee never complained, and she never regretted it. Truly an act of untiring love and selflessness on her part, not only for her mother, but also for Angela, Ray, and myself, who we did not live in the area. As many of us also know, and it was clearly mentioned by Stephanie and Sean, Renee was devoted to Richard throughout his long illness. A fighter he was. If we know him, and those of us who were fortunate to be with him near his passing, I mean, he was truly a fighter. And Renee was devoted to Richard throughout his entire illness. When she had her own significant health issue and surgery, Sean spoke about, her greater concern was for him and not being able to support him when she felt he needed her most. And Richard's concern was the same for her despite his declining condition. It was moving to be around both of them at that time. And to note that they were true partners, bounded by their lasting love and devotion to each other. Now, I'll also point out that family was everything to Renee, and she married into the Lyons family, where everything for them is family too. Renee may have been a Battellini for 22 years, but when she married Richard, she did not just become part of the Lyons family, she became one of them. And I think what I'll say now proves this point. Lovingly, Stephanie or Sean were always there to care for both parents during their mentioned illnesses. Richard's brothers and sisters spent time with him before his passing, and life went on for all thereafter. However, Renee had had complications, as was mentioned, with her initial surgery, which took almost another year to resolve. And during that time, Lyons family members close by and afar kept in touch with her and his sister. Teresa, Jackie, Pat lived in the area. They would visit and made themselves available to provide her support if it was needed. Karen came down from Virginia and stayed with Renee for several weeks following her successful second surgery, and Dan visited as she recovered. Thereafter, as Renee downsized and packed to move from Florida, Jim and Sharon arrived from Virginia, and they spent 3+ weeks helping her to speed the process. Marty, who had been present with Richard and assisted during his final days, he and his wife, Christine, always made it a point that if Renee ever needed anything, he was only a phone call away. I know Renee appreciated every visit, every call, every helping hand from her Lions family members, and I too will never forget it. As Renee recovered from her own medical saga, she was determined to fulfill a long-held wish, to move from Florida to be closer to her children and grandchildren. She wasted no time, and after much thought, she chose and moved to Houston in May 2024, where she lived near Stephanie and granddaughters Emma, Anna, and Julia, while still staying close in heart to Sean, Kendra, and her granddaughter Catherine, who were in Northern Virginia. Renee enjoyed each day in Houston, her long-held wish fulfilled. So I'll close now by simply yet profoundly saying that Renee lived a full and event-filled life. She loved and she was loved by many. There's no doubt in my mind where she is right now, and may we all be as fortunate. There you go. Thank you.